Okay, we're going to take this one, see how I get on. While I was recounting the story about the donkey and the nuts, and I did mention to you the fact that there'd been some other incidents with regard to these journeys into South Wales, and that I didn't go recreationally. If I had a holiday or anything, I wouldn't go to South Wales because there were too many nightmares. This one is a straw load. The last story was about the animal feed. This time it's a load of straw. It was the Bedford KM again, the ex-Marshall Brothers lorry with a long wheelbase, longest permissible body length, so it would carry vegetables. And of course that was ideal for straw as well, because the volume is greater than the weight. Hay, of course, is a little bit different, because hay, if it's packed tightly, you can get overloaded with hay. Anyway, if I remember rightly, this was a load of straw, and I'd been down to Cambridgeshire to collect this. It had been very wet. As I told you earlier, the farmers in South Wales were struggling. Well, not just South Wales, but the hill farmers had a couple of years of bad weather. They couldn't produce hay and straw sufficient for their animal care, and so they were looking for it from elsewhere, other parts of England and Scotland and Wales. England and Scotland anyway. So this is where we came in. Alan Hubbard had got us involved in taking these loads down to South Wales, into the area around, before Carmarthen, and around Llandilo and Newcastle Emlyn and places like that. It's very hilly. It's the edge of the Brecon Beacons. So I'd gone to Wales with the Bedford. I was on my own this journey. It had been raining a lot, and I was picking up some straw out of the corner of a field. It had been a field sown with cereals, and it was just stubble. Anyway, it wasn't good. The weather wasn't good. I don't think it was quite raining at the time I went to pick it up, but it was boggy, and Alan had arranged for the farmer to stand by with a crawler tractor to get me out of the field. It's that bad. Well, of course, a lorry in a stubble field with wet ground can't go anywhere. It hasn't got any traction. It's just got the back axle. Of course, that would dig a big hole. So I got into the field next to the stack, and I started loading the straw. Now, there's an art to loading small rectangular bales onto a lorry to create a load that's sufficiently safe to take it several hundred miles without falling off. There's an art to it. You have to learn how to do it. You have to stack the bales and lock them in, particularly at the corners, so that the corners stay like corners and don't just collapse and fall apart and the load end up on the road. We went 8 high with these loads to get sufficient volume to make the job worthwhile. I think it was well over 300 bales on this lorry. The small lorry, the little Ford lorry Michael drove, we could get about 170 to 200 bales on that. But this one was over 300, maybe 350 bales. Now that's quite a lot for a 4-wheel 2-axle lorry. And of course, when it's hay, then you're getting perilously close to being overloaded. Got this straw on, got it all roped, and I got a sheet on top. Very wise. You're going long distance. If there's bad weather, particularly because the rain would ruin the load, driving into the top of the bales, spoil all the top. So I got a shortish sheet over the top of the load, down to about 1/3 of the way down the sides and the front and the back, to protect it from the weather, and also to hold them together against the wind, because the wind, as you're going along, can get into your load at the front if you don't watch out, and penetrate if it's very strong, and actually push the load apart. Because straw is quite light, you see. It's not good to load. So off we went, and I'd gone down through Hereford, I think, Hereford or Worcester, one or the other, cross country, and down into the Brecon Beacons. And I was, by that time, because it was mid-afternoon when I'd finished loading, we were at the time before tachographs. Now, if you know anything about lorries today, modern regulations involve a tachograph, which is like a clock, which accurately accurately records everything you do. It records the speed you're going, it records when you stop, when you started, where you stopped, where you started. It records your brakes. In fact, it records everything. Well, before that, you had a logbook. So you just had your normal dials in the lorry, you know, speedo and stuff. But then you had a paper logbook which you filled in, which told the authorities when they stopped you to check your logbook and see that you were not breaking the law, where you come from, when you'd started, where you were going, etc. And if you had brakes and things, you're supposed to record, you know, things in it. So I'd left Cambridge. I mean, I'd left home in South Lincolnshire before lunch and gone down to Cambridge. So what, 2 hours? And then I loaded this lorry. Well, loading is slow. I mean, it probably took me 2 or 3 hours to load this. That's with folks chucking the bales at me. Then roping off and sheeting it and setting off. So it would be early evening when I set off from Cambridge, and I had to get pulled out of the field. That was quite a nightmare. The lorry couldn't go, it couldn't move. It's slithery and muddy and slimy, and if you did try and put the lorry into gear and try and drive it anywhere, you just dug a big hole in the back axle. So I got connected to a crawler tractor, which gradually propelled me in a big circle and out of the field. There's an art to it. You need to just keep the lorry in gear and just keep the engine ticking over, so the wheels are turning but not actually doing anything. So the front axle, of course, the wheels, there's no propulsion, so the wheels can dig in if you come to a wet, boggy part. And then, of course, the crawler will pull you out. Back axle, you need to just keep the wheels turning, and then hopefully everything's hunky-dory and you get out. I got out of the field. What a mess. The lorry was covered in mud, and so was I. Anyway, as I said, we got off and went down through the west of England and down into the Brecon Beacons, and I think I was looking for somewhere like Landilo. We have map books and things, you know, and I hadn't on this occasion got a map book which gave the height of the bridges you are likely to encounter. You can get map books with bridge heights and obstructions and things, you know, so that you can plan your journey so that you don't actually come to an obstruction which bars your route. Well, I did. I hadn't got this map book, and I was tootling along nicely, and it was after midnight, and I was still plodding along, because as I told you earlier, the time you've got to the west of England, like Hereford and Worcester, you know, you're probably a bit over halfway geographically, but with regard to the roads, and you're not. You're barely halfway, because beyond the Welsh border, the roads deteriorate. They're half the size. They've got high banks, steep curves, ups and downs. You can't see where you're going. And nothing straight. So I'd arrived at this town. I can't remember which town it was, and I'd actually come up against a railway bridge. You know, big curved arch, you know, like railway bridges are. I thought, well, yeah, it should be all right. I didn't give it a thought. I kept poodling along, and I just got the front edge of the lorry under the bridge, and everything came to a halt. So I was stuck to about 2 o'clock in the morning. Underneath, it's a good job it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Underneath this railway bridge, somewhere in South Wales, and obviously I had to keep going. I mean, who's to say that if I couldn't back out, the lorry was well and truly stuck. So I was about a third of the way stuck under this bridge. So it wasn't too far to my destination. So I decided that the only thing I could do, because a bridge is curved, curved arch. So I was stuck under the, you know, with the sides. The lorry sides, the side of the load was stuck on the sides of the curve, and because so I got room at the top, So I clambered up the load. By God, I had to be fit, didn't I? So no ladders or anything. You have to scramble up this 8 bales of straw onto the top. First of all, I had to release the sheets, the ropes holding the sheets. Then decide how to attack this. And I thought, well, I can't undo all the ropes because the load will fall off. So I decided to attack the front of the lorry. And yeah, or did I? It sounds like the back. Anyway, yes, the front of the lorry. And so I got the sheet pulled back, the ropes off the front, the sheet pulled back off the load so to get all the straw. And I'd got 8 bales high. I got nothing in the middle, which was a 9th bale. So that was my chance to actually get out of this predicament, was to pull some bales from the outside of the load into the middle at the top and make a double row bales, so full width, a double row of bales across the top of the load, which would make my load, it should have been easier to get through the curve, you see. That was my idea. Oh, can you imagine how many? Over 300 bales on that lorry. So, and of course, you've got to be ever so careful with it. And I was on top. So I got it sheet pulled back and I started pulling some courses of bales from down the side and putting them in the middle that way on. So I've got plenty of room. And then as I got probably 4 or 5 done, then I pulled the sheet back because the shape of the load had changed. So we've got this gap. Instead of being flat across the top, we've then got a step. Which arm is which? A step like that. No, it goes that way. So we got this camera, you know, it's a peculiar thing. It's like a mirror, and so everything I'm doing is opposite way on. So you've got, instead of having a flat load, you've then got steps. You go in and then up and then across and some more at the top. Can you follow me? So I pull the sheet back, put the ropes on the front because they're cross roped on the corners to hold the corners together, and then went back a bit further. So I had to take the middle ropes off the load, and pull the sheet right back. I pulled it right from the back up towards the front. I took the middle ropes off and pulled the middle ones into, we're getting towards the edge of the railway bridge now, so I've got a bit more room above my head. Pull the middle ones, the centre of the load, pull the bits from the outside and put them to the middle at the top, a bit higher up. So it makes the load more like that. Yeah. And I gradually worked my way down. So after I'd got the middle done, then I down on the ground, tightened all the ropes up so that it was secure, and then to the back. Now the back is the most dangerous part because there's no, see, the front's got a headboard, the front of the lorry, and the back hasn't got a headboard. There's nothing there at all, just daylight at the end of the load. So I had to be ever so careful with that. And then of course the back end was sticking out, it wasn't under the bridge. I could see by now though that as I was reshaping the load, then there was daylight and I could proceed under the bridge, so I knew I was winning, and my actions would result in being able to have forward progress. Once again, I don't know how long I was there, 2 hours, maybe more, pulling these bales up. So I'd got the ropes off the back of the load and very carefully pulled the outside bales into the middle, one course higher up, to make another step, and then climbed down, tightened up all the ropes, made it all secure, and then dragged the sheet over the whole of the load and secured it down the sides and at the back and cross-roped it. And that was that. And so I could actually proceed further on my journey. If I remember rightly, at the end of the journey, I think I was worn out by that time. I had to find somewhere to stop. I wasn't too far from where I was going. You didn't have mobile phones in these days, you know. 1973, 74, no mobile phones. If you wanted to phone somebody, you found a phone box and phoned them up. There weren't portable mobile phones. So, yes, I did eventually get to my destination, and I do believe I had some help to unload it. And there was an elevator involved, so that we were elevating the straw, I think, into a barn. It wasn't a bad load, actually. That stack was out in the open field. The top few bales were damp, but the rest of the load was good straw. So it was a decent load, and the farmer got good value for money eventually. But it was another of those nightmare journeys. And you can see why, when I had spare time, I didn't go to Wales for a holiday. So there we are, another little story. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, if you did enjoy the story, would you give us a like and maybe even think about subscribing to the channel, because that is good for us. If you want to listen to more stories, you can download stories to listen to on your whatever you listen to from our Buzzsprout site, link coming up. Alternatively, you can look at the books that we have for you to download. I'm going to do another video about some of the picture storybooks next. And so there we are. That's the end of the story for today. Thank you for being patient and being with us. I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next time, cheerio.